4 features to use every week. I'm going to give you some personal stories. Then we're going to dive into actual like business development use cases for each of these. And I tell you the personal stories because that's how I've found is the best way to grow and advance here. When I hear of a new tool or new function, I immediately and typically like, "Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Like, how am I going to use that?" And I have to force myself, which I actually do, to find a way to use the feature and the function. And I typically start with something personal, whether it be my dog, my HOA, cooking, my woodworking downstairs, or one of the 25 business ideas I have every day. And I just figure out how to use it. And then I get really good at it. And then I start to learn the capabilities of shit. I could use this over here in my business. I could tell my clients to do this, to do this. I could tell you guys to do all this. So project workspaces. This was covered last month, super in depth, but I'm still finding not everybody knows about this. So instead of using the running list of a million chats, find the one that you are commonly going to for the same thing, create a project and move that chat into that project. That project is now an isolated, dedicated space where only the context and information that pertains to that subject is going to sit in here. And so it gets better and better and better about understanding the context of what we've got going on in there. For me, I've got everything I already said. I've got a cooking project. I've got a dog project. I've got an HOA project. Every single one of my clients has a project. My business has a project. The content I produce has a project. What else has a project? I think like my headspace, there's a Justin project where we talk about Justin, right? Anything that has a regular occurrence in your chats, move them to a project. Okay, deep research this is for those times when you're not trying to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius and your answer is a lot bigger than a three character word. Deep research is when you have questions that require bouncing unlimited amounts of information off of each other to draw conclusions. I will tell you, I made this using deep research. I told ChatGPT, I have questions that need answers. And we talked through where my mind was and the questions I needed answered. And we built a set of questions that were made to go give to the deep research functions on all of these models. And if you come over here, if you go to the about page, you'll see the back-end sources that went into this. And so I took deep research. I think this whole thing was like 200 pages of research that all got brought in together. There's no single source of answers to the questions that I asked to create this. And so when you have big questions, bring in the big guns. Voice to text. Okay. I'm also still surprised how many people aren't using this. This is for on the go. I'm walking the dog. I've got an idea. I got something I need to get out of my head. It could be anything under the sun. I pull out the voice to text and I literally just talk my brain into text. And on a 10-minute walk, I can talk like 4,000 words. And by the time I get back into my front door and I hit send, I put the leash up, I come back to my desk and sitting on my ChatGPT now is 10 minutes worth of thought, which is like 6 hours worth of typing that I never would have done in the first place, right? Yeah, I use this all the time. And then the last one is agent mode. This is the one I've been most excited to talk to you guys about. It took me a while to find a use case for this. And this is a perfect example of personal over to business. What is agent mode? Agent mode is when what is actually like a task, like a function. You are light years beyond converting Fahrenheit to Celsius in this point. And it's a function that requires you to physically do something and touch something and click things and create things. And so I was sitting on this for months before I figured out a use case. I just did it yesterday. So at said grocery store, right? I got the receipt. What has the survey. Get $500 for the survey if I fill out the survey, right? And I go to the grocery store every day, so I get one of these every day. I never fill it out. I opened ChatGPT. I took a picture of the receipt. I voice texted into it. I said, "Hey, I just went to the store. Here's what I bought. Here was my general experience. Here's who I interacted with. Yes, I'm going to tell everybody about it." It took me like 60 seconds to articulate my experience. And I said, I need you to fill this survey out for me. And I hit go. And it opened up a little browser window. And I sat there for 16 minutes. And I watched this tool answer every question according to the context of the experience that I told it. And at the end, it was like, hey, the last question is you need your name and phone, phone number, email if you want to win $500. So I like gave it to it and it put it in and I got a confirmation that I was now in the drawing. And I didn't have to do it. I did take 16 minutes because I was so fascinated to see that this happened. Then I did it again the next day, except this time I did it and I put the phone down and I walked away. And then when I came back to my computer an hour later, it was like, hey, this was done. And that was the moment that I realized the power. Shit, now I got to figure out ways to apply this to my work so that I can do less stuff, but get more done. So here, again, you're all going to get this. Here are deeper definitions, basically what I just said, of what these things do and how they work. And now we're gonna roll into how to actually use these in your day-to-day professional life. So, and I'm gonna be repeating some of the stuff here. So just know it's all now in this newer context of work. So in any of your tools that you're using, repeated conversations, you could even have different threads. You know, let's say you have different threads in your AI tool that are like all about different functions of working with your clients. Like one could be like one thread could be helping you write some emails. One thread could be just helping you figure out, solve problems. One could just be your companion that you talk to about your clients. Take all those, move them into a project. And now that's your daily assistant project. And every time you go to that project, you'll see all of your historical threads there, and it's going to know and retain that context and get a hell of a lot faster at doing what it needs to do. Let's see, I've got some hands and some questions. Donna.
I put my hand down, but I did put it in chat. So my question, your use case, when you did it the second day and you didn't wait 16 minutes, did you have to come in and enter your name, address, and phone number, or did it remember that for you for the future ones?
I gave it to it on the front end.
Okay. Okay. You told it every time, fill this in.
Yeah.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I went and I asked that agent to write me a list of questions so that when I do this next time, I know exactly what you need to know. And I don't reread every question every time, but I've just like, I got this block of information. So now I'm trained to give it what it needs to the best of its ability.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. We're going to cruise through this one. Start consolidating your threads into projects. It sounds simple. It sounds basic. It will change how you operate. It will change how fast you get to do things. Instead of asking in detail to accomplish a task, that folder just knows that like when you give this type of information, it just knows what to do with it. All right, deep research on the business side. Let's say you're thinking about entering like a new market or a new segment, or let's say you're thinking about going after these 3 specific companies or 1 specific company, or let's say you want to know market intelligence of your business. Right? Let's say I wanted to know about single person CMO companies and individuals that were in Chicago. I want to know all the players. I want to know their positioning. I want to know who they appear to serve. And I want to know anything else that you think I should know from a competitive intelligence position. Deep research. What this does is it actually takes your prompt and then it asks itself like 50 prompts, 50 questions to make sure that the few lines that you wrote are 100 million% answered. And so that type of information that's super deep, super contextual, super wide, and super like has to have all the dots connected is where you're going to use deep research. Voice to text, a great way. I think this is one of the first early ways that I started using this was walking into a meeting and I didn't do my homework. So I'm like, hey, I'm about to go into this meeting with this person and here's their business. I think I could service them in this way. Can you like give me some talking points and look up some information about them? I'm going to walk in 30 seconds. The amount of time it would have taken to type that, plus the context of setting of being either at a computer, which I wasn't, or being on my phone, right? I can just say it. And then as I'm walking into the building, I'm now just reading And I walk into the room and I still should have done my actual homework, but I got 80% of the way there and it didn't take any time. And so, yeah, voice to text. It's a great way for quick, even large mind dumps, brain dumps, and times and situations where not having your hands is beneficial. And agent mode. Okay, so you heard the personal story. Now the professional way, and this was another bridge going from I figured out how to use it personally to now I'm figuring out how to use it in my business. The most serious, impactful way that I've used it so far was I found a web directory of people that I wanted to examine to potentially start doing outreach to. There were like 400 people on this website. It was like an association type of industry listing directory. And I copied the data from the website. Like I just selected all and copied it. And I brought it over to the agent and I said, hey, here's like 25,000 characters of text. And if I gave that to a regular chat example, just a normal chat, it would have overloaded it. It would not have been able to handle that amount of data and that amount of information. And it would have given me back, there was 400 people on the page. It probably would have given me back like 12 in an organized fashion before it forgot what it was supposed to do. And so here's where the agent comes in and shines because it's a multi-step touch point. Even if it has to happen 20 times or 2,000 times, it's trained to go round and round and round and figure out these objectives. So I just copied and pasted the information from the website and I plopped it into the chat. And I said, I need you to organize this in a Excel, in a CSV file with these being the headers. And like 2 minutes later, I downloaded a CSV that had everybody's names, job titles, companies. What wasn't on the page was it said email. It had a button for email and it had a button for LinkedIn, which meant that their email address was actually behind the button. It wasn't on the page, as was their LinkedIn profile URL. It was behind the button. And so, because I know a little bit about technology, I did this thing where I right clicked and hit view page source, and I was able to see the code of the website, which had all of the URLs and the email addresses. And so I copied, now that was like 500,000 characters of text, jumbled text. And I gave that to the agent. I said, hey, I need you to go through this. It's literally like having an assistant. So I need you to go through this monstrous amount of text. And I need you to find Justin True, and then in the code, find his email address and find his LinkedIn URL, and then go put that back into the CSV that you already did for me. That was awesome. 2 minutes later, I had a directory of 400 people. Now, there's like the ethics of like usage of that list and all that you don't need to worry about here. But the fact that I was able to do that in 5 minutes or less, and I was able to move on with my life and actually start communicating with those people. So anything that's task, it's worth pushing agent mode to see if it can do it. And we got one last bonus example, which is going to come in handy here. Just use AI. So if you're like, oh, could I use agent mode for this? Well, just ask the tool. Use voice to text. Hey, I got this idea. I think I want to use agent mode. This is the scenario. This is the task. This is what I need you to do. Is this something that agent mode can do? And if so, can you just write the prompt? And then it writes the prompt, and then you copy that, paste it back in, turn the prompt mode on, and you probably start to progress exponentially by using AI to help you figure out how to use AI. Debbie.
Hey, Justin. Is agent mode, is that a particular moniker for a particular tool, or does it show up as GPT, like write your own GPT in ChatGPT? Or is it just a general kind of approach?
It's called different things in different tools. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that's the really condensed right way to ask what I was asking.
Yeah. So on this slide, which you'll get a copy of, it has all of the what they're called in the other various tools.
Ah, okay.
Back to this. You could just ask. Right? I encourage you to make a project that is your like learning assistant for how to use these tools. And every time you have a question, about pushing yourself to the limit here, go to that project. And guess what? Over time, it's gonna figure out where you're at, how you like to be communicated to, the vernacular that you use, the applications you want to use it for, and it's gonna start to get sharper and you're gonna get faster. All right, we are cruising towards the end here. I probably got like 3 more minutes and then we'll open it up to the floor. I just want to give everybody a snapshot heads up. These are the tools that I use: ChatGPT predominantly, then Gemini, then Copilot. I use Slack. A lot of the integrations I have with these tools that do some automated stuff, all that messaging comes to me through Slack. That's how I interact with a lot of these kind of backend stuff. I use Notion as my end-all be-all organization space for anything you can think of. Granola is a recent addition. Granola is a meeting capture. So it's just like Fireflies or any of those other meeting recording tools. I'm finding Granola to be pretty awesome in terms of how it uses AI as its infrastructure to just take notes behind the scenes and nobody knows. So if you're looking for a new tool, check out Granola. Lovable is a tool I use to do development, how I made this. That's how I made my website. That's how I made this interactive tool. Whisper is for those of you that are pushing the limits or exercising your voice to text muscle. Whisper is a new tool to my stack and I'm loving it. It's basically voice to text in any window, in any space. So if you're like writing an email, you just hold a button down and it just starts recording and you just dictate the email. And then when you unhold the button, your email is now written. So again, for those that are already pushing their voice to text and want to take it further, check out Whisper. Make is where you get to have the ability to connect all these different tools together to have action, cause, reaction on the back end. It's kind of an advanced tool. Gamma is a tool that I think we're actually going to dive into next month, into a workflow of how to create PowerPoints in 5 seconds or less, and how to actually like start building or producing content from a biz dev perspective. So Manus is a newer tool that I think you probably have heard about. Facebook bought them a couple weeks ago. They're an up and comer in terms of figuring out how to automate and bring AI into a small business workspace. So if you've got like 50 people or less, and you don't have a crazy compliance team or a wild security infrastructure because of the nature of your business, Manus is a way to start having like intense collaboration with your team and all using a similar same infrastructure and being able to work together. Natural Reader is pretty cool. I can take any block of text, I can drop it in a Natural Reader, and then it just reads it to me as if it was like a podcast or an audiobook. And so I will often do a lot of research using AI, and then I will drop it into Natural Reader so that I can listen to it while I'm going for a jog for 45 minutes and be able to do 2 things at once. And then Zoom, as we all know, actually really love the Zoom recordings and Zoom summaries of the amount of data that puts out.